this for you.
Oh.
I just have to make sure that I remember to hit. All that is false and unjust is destroyed, but what is true endures forever. Riches come to an end like a torrent, like a mighty stream that is only mighty in a thunderstorm. But kindness will never be undone, and righteousness is established forever. Our lives number days but few, but the life of Israel will endure for eternity. Put aside for ourselves a treasure of righteousness and love, and it will benefit us more than all our possessions. So there is a reading in front of us. I will pull it up on the screen for those who are watching, which was requested. And due to the diligence of the Friedman family, it has been completed. So this is a poem called Epitaph by Merritt Malloy. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. And we know that that is exactly the type of spirit that Paul would have wanted us to act on his behalf. We know that generosity guided him. We know that he pursued relationships over people and pursued relationships and people and understood that people were the point in family, in business, in all of these things. When we put people first, as he did, we have a better life. We give more of our lives and we get more in return. And how do we know we have so much to get in return? Well, I have seldom done a funeral where there are so many speakers. And so with that in mind, we are going to start with Danny, I believe. Yes?
Thank you. The greatest tribute to my father is not that which I make, but instead the countless words of others whose lives... Oh, sorry. The greatest tribute to my father is not that which I make, but instead the countless words of others whose lives my dad touched. Since my dad's passing, I have received countless calls, letters, and emails from old friends and business associates. They all say the same thing. Paul was a remarkable gentleman who was well respected and will be missed. As most people in business do, my dad touched the lives of many people, customers, employees, suppliers. In every encounter, he had the same approach. First, he would ask questions about what was important to them, about family, hobbies, or anything that would allow him to get to know more about the individual's life. His true interest and caring nature opened the door to many friendships and made for very successful business relationships built on trust and integrity. This legacy paved the way for me as I assumed more responsibility at work. To employees, he was well loved and respected, not as a strict leader, but as a caring gentleman that gave everyone the benefit of the doubt and looked for the best attributes they had and overlooked some of the not so good. As a father, I could not ask for any finer. My dad never was harsh with me, even when I deserved it. And sometimes I deserved it. And truly attempted to teach me by example, always the teacher. I learned a lot from my dad in business and in life, and I owe him a debt that is only repayable by attempting to live my life as well and as honorable as he lived his. One last thought I have is I want to thank the caregivers that helped my dad, my mom, Bertha, and the people at Canterbury. Thank you.
Just beautiful. Thank you so much, Dan. And Stacy?
I hope this doesn't drone on for a little bit, but Paul is the man I saw. Although Paul was a successful businessman, I often saw the teacher side of Paul and wonder how he would have positively influenced a generation of impressionable students. He clearly had a talent exemplified by his many friends and the respect he garnered from his long-term employees and customers. Paul had the ability to make you feel valid. Whatever you'd say, he was listening with undivided attention. Paul is a papa. Some of my fondest memories of Paul are shared with the girls. Our trips to Florida were beyond a vacation. But the Breakers had nothing on Gloria and Paul's. I don't know who was more exciting mornings to wake up and pick oranges from the trees for fresh squeezed juice. I remember Paul helping the girls pick the best ones. After a few years, the trees stopped producing, and mornings I say to Gloria, "Where's Paul?" "Oh, he just had a few errands to run." And I thought, at 7 a.m., this must be what you do at their age. Paul would wake up early, make a run to the boys, and tell the girls he picked the oranges for them. If you didn't know this, girls, sorry to burst your bubble, but the secret's out. The times that Paul would take the girls to look for shells on the beach, I'm sorry, they come back all excited with these beautiful shells. And I would think to myself, where did we find these shells on Boynton Beach? Little did we know, he would buy the shells, walk a few paces in front, and scatter them for them to find. What can I say? Well, first, where did he hide all those shells? And second, sorry girls, there are no shells like that on Boynton Beach. But what a wonderful, caring, and loving papa. And once again, he just kept the magic going. Paul is a father-in-law. I have so many fond memories of Paul, I can't express them all. But the simple, uncomplicated moments we spent together, I'll hold dear to my heart. Warm and engaging, he loved to fish, not in the traditional sense, but he cast you a line, a topic to discuss. And before you know it, you've talked and talked and talked. And then you look at Paul and he's just like nodding, just listening. And he's just amazing. On a personal note, I remember a stressful time in my life where I was very overwhelmed. And I went to Gloria and Paul's. It was late. I felt vulnerable, but Paul and Gloria took me in, comforted me with compassion and care. I never thought I would be close to a father-in-law, but with Paul, I could wear my heart on my sleeve. And what's more wonderful than that? I'm very fortunate to have been welcomed into his family. His magic will always be in all of our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you did not go on too long. Victoria?
Well, some of you guys already touched on some of these things that I want to talk about. The one being that Papa Paul was so great at conversation, and he loved talking to people, getting to know people, and when he talked to you, you really felt like he was super interested in you, really wanted to get to know you. Sorry.
excuse me. The things that made him so great at conversation were his ability to be selfless, his curiosity, and his ability to listen. He was a fantastic listener. And I think we can all honor him by taking the time to slow down and just listen a little bit more in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Jillian?
I have many great memories with Papa, but today I'm just going to share a few of my favorites. Sorry. Growing up, Papa was always smiling, always happy, and he was always our biggest fan. Every time we came to visit, we were greeted with "Oh, my girls, you are so beautiful." He loved his granddaughters dearly, and he was always thrilled to see us. I remember when we went to visit in Florida, there was a beautiful plant out on the patio, and he would stop and look at it every morning. He told me that it was his favorite because it was so beautiful, and he just enjoyed taking time to look at it. He also said he took care of it, but I have a feeling that Nani was the one who was in charge of the watering. Papa always appreciated the little things in life and saw the beauty in everything, and I think that's very special. Something important he taught me is to appreciate the small things and be grateful for all that we have. Sorry. Papa also helped me with my math homework many times. I always struggled with math, and my least favorite was the fractions. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with him, and I told him, I don't understand why I need to do all these math problems. When would I use this stuff anyway, Papa? Well, he told me it was important and that I would use math every day, and being young, I thought to myself, I'm never going to use all this information. Well, Papa, you were right. I use fractions every day for my dose calculations. So thank you for taking the time to help me with my homework and explain why it is important. I feel very lucky to have had a grandfather who was so caring and loving. Papa was always happy and smiling and teaching others, and that's how I will always remember him.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. Allie, I gather, is speaking on behalf of Allie, Kyle, and Luke, right?
Hi, everyone. Today, I speak not only for myself, but for my husband, Chris, my sister, Kyle, and her husband, Justin, my brother, Luke, and likely many others who had the great privilege of knowing my grandfather. Some of you knew him as Paul, some as Mr. Friedman, some as PF or PUF, their idol, an honorary member of the FBI, carpet connoisseur, lifelong friend, beloved husband of 71 beautiful years, and the world's greatest dad. But we knew him by the best name of all, Papa. There are not many people who are lucky enough to have their grandfather for 32 years, and there are even fewer who can say they called their grandpa their friend. But that is exactly who Papa was to all of us, our pal. Every time we'd walk into the room and say, "Hi, Papa," he'd throw his hands up and say, "Aha, that's me," with a giant smile on his face, like you were just the person he was hoping to see in that moment. It was that unique ability to make every person feel extraordinary. That was his superpower. Papa loved to learn, and he instilled that love in all of us. Whether it was reading or riddles or magic tricks, he loved a good challenge. His card playing skills were irritatingly good. Just ask Nani. She tried for 71 years to beat the guy and never could. Luke remembers being completely fooled as a kid by Papa. Papa would pretend to increase the volume of the car radio by simply moving his hand up and down like this. It wasn't until years later that Luke realized Papa was actually controlling the volume using the dials on the steering wheel. But the trick remained an unspoken special secret between the two. Papa was brilliant, but he never let you know it. It didn't matter if you were the President of the United States or a stranger on a street corner. Papa treated every person with the same utmost respect. Kyle remembers the way he treated the servers at their country club. Papa would ask each one their name, where they lived, and what they liked to do, because he genuinely wanted to know them as people. It was impossible not to feel special in his company. When Papa met my husband, Chris, he asked him about his last name, Fideli. It wasn't just the spelling that interested him, it was the story behind it. To Papa, the letters were all lines in a lineage that he cared to know. When he met Kyle's husband, Justin, the two enjoyed detailed conversations about the stock market. For Papa, it wasn't just his own interest in finance. He cared to know and understand what you did for a living. When each of us would talk to Papa about work, he would ask us two questions. Do they take care of you, and are you happy? He wanted to make sure we were valued, because that's how he treated everyone. Whether it was his business partners, his employees, his acquaintances, his friends, or his family, he took care of you. Papa's kindness was contagious, and he never complained. In 32 years, we never heard him say a bad word about anyone or ever get upset. Even as kids, when we were wreaking havoc throughout the house, he never said a word. In fact, he did the opposite and embraced it. There's one memory that's etched in our minds. Papa is challenging my sister, brother, cousins, and me to an activity. We're jumping off the living room stairs, attempting to clear a yardstick that Papa is holding. He's kneeling on the floor, and he's moving the yardstick farther and farther away with each jump, coaxing and cheering us on. He's smiling, and we're laughing, and everyone else in the room is wondering how none of us have ended up in the hospital yet. Papa's story is one of humility, honesty, integrity, character, and love. Put simply, the world could use a lot more Papa right now. Of all his many qualities, achievements, and success, his greatest by far was his love for our grandmother, Nani. It is endless, unmatched, unrivaled, and unforgettable. It's a love that poured into all of us, and we are all here because of it. We will miss everything about Papa. His gentle hugs, his love of chicken parm, his extreme sweet tooth, his Ralph Lauren rugby shirts, the twinkle in his eye, his wise words of advice, his stock market savviness, his stories of skiing, his love of the Bills, and the way he'd look at Nani and simply remark, "Isn't she beautiful?" But we carry on his legacy by learning something new each day, by saying hello to a stranger, by helping someone just because it's the right thing to do, by taking the time to listen, by putting someone else's needs ahead of our own, by telling the truth, by reading a poem, by enjoying a powder day, by listening to Acker Bilk, by taking the scenic route, by betting on the underdog, and by taking care of one another always. Years ago, my father gave me a book of poetry. Poetry is a passion that was passed down to him by Papa and by my father to me. Inside the book, my dad inscribed the message, "Poetry is something that makes life worth living. You are a poet." In honor of Papa and his love of poetry, I'd like to recite one that makes me think of him and where I believe he is right now. In my dreams, I fly again, rushing downhill, bracing, energizing, cold air slaps color on my face, and I look up and out over eternity of sky, mountains, trees. Parallel blades slice crisp and sharp into new powdered ice, the only sound above the wind. Time stops. I race through, leaving behind me a curly blue ribbon the wind carries away. In my dreams, still, ageless, singular, free, I fly. Papa, thank you for loving us all to pieces.
Thank you so much, Ali. That was just gorgeous. I believe Amy has something to share.
Sure.
Well, you're all a really tough act to follow. Paul Friedman meant more to me than words could ever convey. And though I came prepared today to read something entirely different, Rabbi, I sincerely apologize for all the confusion. Last night, Kenny and I discovered this poem by Ralph Waldo Emerson in Paul's handwriting, tucked among the many letters Paul wrote to Kenny. When we found it, I said, that's it. That's what I want to read, because I don't know if Paul understood when he wrote this that he was really describing himself. So here it is. To laugh often and love much, to win the respect of intelligent persons and the affection of children, to earn the approbation of honest citizens and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to give of oneself, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To have played and laughed with enthusiasm and sung with exultation. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. You leave the world more than a bit better, dear Papa, and we have all breathed easier because of you.
That's okay. Please.
Our daughter, Jessica. So this is from Jessica, who's in St. Simon's Island. Unfortunately, can't be here with other grandchildren. Dear Papa, I miss you. I miss your smile and your laugh. And the laugh that always met me when I saw you. I know how much you loved us, your family, and that family meant the world to you. The memories I have of playing gin rummy in Florida with you and Nani, and you always winning. Squeezing fresh squeezed orange juice in the kitchen, watching movies, and reading in your study. These may seem like simple moments to others, but they taught me a lot about the importance of family and spending time with those you love. I will share the memories we made together with your great-grandchild, who's on the way, and the happiness that I felt when I was around you. We all will continue to celebrate your life and keep your love in our hearts, and remembering the smile that was always on your face. Love always, Jessica. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you so much. And please do not worry. Ken, I didn't get to tell you this when we talked, but my job is to do whatever works in the moment, right? To figure it out as it happens. We are here together for all of you. I have no agenda except helping out. So with that, I guess we're affirming that you're speaking next because you're getting up, right? Yes. Okay.
Hello, everybody, and I'm wearing a Buffalo Bills mask because I told my dad toward the end that he wasn't going to see the Bills win the Super Bowl, but I honored them somehow. So Justin, I'm very sorry. There. Welcome to the family gathered here in person and to those able to join us by Zoom. While COVID prevents a memorial service with all of us together in person, your virtual presence is welcomed and very much appreciated. Thank you to Rabbi Freirich for your help, support, and kind words. And thank you to Jay Mesnikoff for his help. Thank you to Allie and Chris for sharing their beautiful new backyard with us. And thank you to Amy for making sure all these arrangements were so perfect. Thanks to Danny, Stacy, Jillian, Victoria, and Jessica for their heartfelt comments. So a few reflections on my dad. Ta-da! Da-da-da-da, da-da-da. That's what Dad would sing in a gentle, playful lilt, meaning, I'm here and I'm doing well. I feel good, an emphatic good. I'm in no pain. Even when he wasn't feeling well, he never complained and always was more concerned about you than himself. Always when he was with my mom, he said to whoever was with them, isn't she beautiful? He always had a sparkle in his eye. One of the things he liked was the statue of the frog that was dancing with its arms held high overhead and a joyful smile on its face. So I picture him now with that gentle smile, his arms held up and feeling good. He's happy. Since it's family here and very close friends and relatives on Zoom, there's no need to repeat the details of his life or that he lived to 93, met my mom when she was 15 and he was 19, or that they would have been married 71 years in December. The uniqueness of their story in this day and age speaks for itself. Same with respect to his business success, having been a teacher of special needs children in 1950, and then going into the floor covering business first in 1954 as the Carpet Center, and then Kenny Carpets in 1959. Those are things you know and were in his obituary in the paper this past Sunday. Danny mentioned his special relationship as his business partner and father. I want to reflect a bit about a few things that made him unique and that impacted him to the very end of his days. My dad loved learning new things, loved people, their names, where they came from, and their backgrounds. He loved to read, especially poetry. He used to read poems to me, and then we used to read them to each other. My children and I do the same. I had a wonderful teacher on how to be a father. When he read poems, he always marveled at the use of words and how they made him feel. The poem, The Wanderer, by his favorite poet, Robert Service, described perfectly how he felt. I wish that I could understand the moving marvel of my hand. I watch my fingers turn and twist, the supple bending of my wrist, the dainty touch of fingertip, the steel intensity of grip. A tool of exquisite design, with pride I think, it's mine, it's mine. While reading the words, he would look at his hand and make it move and watch and show me his fingers turn and twist and the supple bending of his wrist. I can hear and picture him now. In another entitled The Shooting of Dan McGrew, a poem set in a bar in the Yukon, where a gold miner comes in from the cold, pushing open the barroom doors. My dad would read with a smile that the miner's eyes went rubbering around the room, while he looked at me with his head shaking up and down like he was watching a bouncing rubber ball. He would say, who could think of writing something like that to convey such a sight? In another, Trees by Joyce Kilmer, he would simply marvel at the words and the message. I think that I shall never see a poem lovely as a tree whose hungry mouth is pressed against the earth's sweet flowing breast, a tree that looks at God all day and lifts her leafy arms to pray, a tree that may in summer wear a nest of robins in her hair, upon whose bosom snow has lain, who intimately lives with rain. Poems are made by fools like me, but only God can make a tree. I recount these three poems for a special reason. COVID-19 made visiting my dad impossible for me, for Danny, and especially my mom. She desperately wanted to be with him, to hold his hand, to let him know he wasn't alone. In the last few weeks, we were allowed to visit once a week, 2 at a time for 30 minutes, 10 feet apart. With my dad's reduced hearing, it would have taken a megaphone to communicate from 10 feet apart. But we did. Sure enough, when the nurse brought him outside to visit, he asked her about her name and where she was from. She spoke gently and held his hand. The nurse said to my dad that Gloria was here. He blew my mom a kiss and lovingly smiled. No hand-holding allowed for my mom. No matter. He said he was comfortable and in no pain, then looked at the nurse and said, isn't she beautiful? Amy put together a few pictures and books for me to take to his room. One picture was of my dad and me when I was 5 or so. The other was of Luke and me when Luke was about 5. He said he always loved those pictures. One of the books I brought was a poetry book which contained some of his favorites. Talking 10 feet apart isn't as easy, especially with a nurse watching to be sure we didn't violate the rules. I asked him about school and how he learned to like to read and like poetry. He recounted a story, with my mom's help, of course. She always completed his sentences. About high school, when he was bored, he took straws with paper wrappers and dipped the wrappers in mashed potatoes and blew the wrappers so they stuck on the ceiling directly over where he was sitting. Not too clever if the intention was not to be caught. The principal came over with a bucket and ladders so Dad could clean the ceiling. It also included a direction to come to his office. As an aside, I'd heard this story many times before. However, I had never heard the ending to the story about what happened at the principal's office. When he got to the principal's office, the principal said, "Paul, you are too smart to be doing this. I want you to come to my office every day and we will read." So my dad did, and they read, poetry in particular, including his favorite, Robert Service. My dad looked at me at this point and said that it is amazing how one person and one event can impact someone's life. For those few minutes, we were talking like we used to, learning and sharing. Mom and I left, and we went back to his room, and he went back to his room. He took the photos and books. That was the last time we spoke like we used to. The next time I saw him was when the COVID rules would finally allow us to be in his room with him. We were together for several hours a day over the next 5 days, but we weren't really able to talk. On Saturday, the day he died, we put on his favorite music, Acker Bilk, and read to him from the book of poetry. The nurse said he could hear. I hope he could hear us. I told him some of the same stories I told here. We read the shooting of Dan McGrew, the cremation of Sam McGee, trees, the children's hour, and others. My mom would often recite some of the poems or parts of them from memory when she heard them. He had read them to her too. My mom had a special poem they shared. It is on the table over there. By Elizabeth Barrett Browning's How Do I Love Thee? She had handwritten it on a piece of paper, and she read it to him. She was wearing the necklace that day that he had made for her with the inscription, "How do I love thee? Let me count the ways." I bet she is wearing it now. Well, this may seem like a sad story. It really isn't. It's really quite special. My dad was a special guy. He was kind and gentle, and he was very smart, although he would never say so. As his friends at Hollymont said, he was their idol. And Ron's on the phone, so he knows what he called him. He was my idol as well, although for different reasons. I'm very proud to be his son. My dad's failing health presented physical challenges for him. Although it didn't get him down, it did create some awkward situations. Perhaps it was because the son was having to take care of the father and not the other way around. He didn't want to have some of the physical impediments. One day he said he wasn't bothered by not being able to walk or do some of the everyday things. He said that he didn't want to miss anything. My dad didn't miss too much in his 93 years. My mom made sure of that. I found many letters that he had written to me over the years, some as long ago as 1981. I wish I could read them all to you. All were so very thoughtful and well written. As always, his words made you feel extraordinary. Here are a few of his thoughts and feelings written to me, but applicable to us all. Now I dream a lot. I still ski at night, and I am damn good. Enjoy your day, count your blessings, and snuggle up to them. Life is a series of moments, not necessarily connected. Some are events, some are just kind of unique, some fun, some sad, and the very few magic moments. My dad made the magic for us all. With that, I will read you a final poem, one that we read to him on Saturday, a poem whose words he loved, especially the last 2 lines. They fit here. The poem's called Invictus. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate and the captain of my soul. May my dad's soul find peace, and may he rest comfortably. He deserves no less.
It is so wonderful, such a blessing to be in the presence of all of you saying such amazing words about Paul. I also wrote poems about skiing. And we share that. As you read about skiing, I thought of a moment, the first New Year's I spent in South Lake Tahoe, where I lived for 8 years. And I just come down one of those incredibly steep, amazing places of chutes, looking down from over 10,000 feet into the Carson Valley. And one of the things about Heavenly Ski Area, if you've ever been there, is you are in the mountains among the pine trees, looking down at the desert. And it is quite amazing. And I feel like now when I think of that, I will think of Paul. Because those of us who are connected in the spirit of nature and the spirit of shussing down a mountain are deeply, profoundly connected forever. Another thought I had with regard to Paul is I'm reading a book right now by a Sikh author named Valerie Kaur. And the book is called See No Stranger. It's a manifesto of radical love, of understanding that every person we meet is not a stranger. They are just a friend we have not yet developed. Paul lived his life that way, understanding that there are, in fact, no strangers in the world, that we are all in community, in family together. We just haven't figured out how yet. And so at this time of year, this Jewish time of year where we come to the Jewish New Year on Friday evening and sound the shofar. What is the shofar, this horn, this guttural cry, this supernatural sense of connection and wonder? It is the cry to wake up and see no stranger. It is the cry to wake up and act kindly at all times. And it is clear that Paul's life served as that cry, served as that reminder that we must wake up and say tada, like the shofar. I am joyful to see you. I am joyful to be okay. I am joyful to meet you. And what better way to go into the world in this new year than with Paul in our hearts doing that? In the Talmud, there is a story about the Ark of the Covenant. And they ask, the Ark of the Covenant was meant to be decorated with gold on the outside and on the inside. And in the Talmud, it says, everybody understands why we put gold on the outside. Decoration should be seen. But why should the Ark have gold on the inside? And they say, because the outside must match the inside. There is no gold on the outside if there is no gold on the inside. And Paul was that, a person, humility, honesty, integrity, love, all of these things that you have said, a definition of success from Ralph Waldo Emerson that is one we all should be striving for, is the gold on the inside reflecting the gold on the outside and vice versa. And so with these ideas in mind, with his presence brought into this wonderful backyard that you have shared with us all today, with his presence now, we have two people in the waiting room that I haven't admitted, I apologize. With his presence now spread out throughout the world via Zoom, which none of us would have imagined we were doing 6 months ago. We know we can carry him forward today, that he will be with us, that every time we say hello and ask more than how are you to someone, it will be Paul with us. That every time we remember to be joyful for no other reason that everything is okay enough, Paul will be with us. Let us take a few moments and feel Paul with us in silence right now. As we begin the most Jewish part of the ceremony, we're going to ask Ken and Danny and Gloria to rise and do the tearing of the ribbon. We tear a ribbon in Judaism because we understand that something irreparable has taken place. For many of us will wear it on our lapel or on our clothing for the next week or the next month or even the next 11 months. It is a reminder that there is something irreparable that has taken place with us. And so the blessing for the tearing is Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'amet. Praised are you, the eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who is the true judge. And if you would repeat after me, Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem, Adonai Mevarach. God has given, God has taken. Praise be the name of God. You may tear your ribbons. And if everyone else would rise for our memorial prayer, the first of two. This prayer, El Malei Rachamim, is only said at this moment, only said at the moment of when we are saying goodbye. We'll say it again a couple of other times, but it is tied to this memorial. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina, B'malot Kedoshim U'Teorim, Zohar Arakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Paul Friedman, Shehalach Le'olamo, V'gan Eden Tehem Menuchato, Anna Bal Harachamim Hastirehu, Beseter Kinafecha Le'olamim, Utzror Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkavo, V'nomar Amen. We read together the words of El Malei, translated. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure, to the soul of Paul Friedman, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. When we say Mourner's Kaddish for someone, it is not like a memorial prayer. Mourner's Kaddish is a prayer we come back to over and over again. It is the prayer to remind us that all those things that we know about Paul live on with us. It is a prayer of miracles, the miracle of presence that can be found even when someone is gone from us physically. And Paul will never be gone from us metaphysically. He will be with us in poetry, in song, in love, and in kindness, in generosity forever. And so we say Mourner's Kaddish for the first time for Paul right now. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'yizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'amei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha barichu. La'ela minko birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. And as a lover of poetry, we have a translation here of Mourner's Kaddish written by Marge Piercy, a Jewish poet. She wrote, "Look around us, search above us, below, behind. We stand in a great web of being joined together. Let us praise, let us love the life we are lent, passing through us in the body of Israel and our own bodies. And let us say, Amen. Time flows through us like water. The past and the dead speak through us. We breathe out our children's children blessing. Blessed is the earth from which we grow. Blessed the life we are lent. Blessed the ones who teach us. Blessed the ones we teach. Blessed is the word that cannot say the glory that shines through us and remains to shine, flowing past distant suns on the way to forever. Let us say, Amen. Blessed is light, blessed is darkness, but blessed above all else is peace, which bears the fruits of knowledge on strong branches. Let us say, Amen. Peace that bears joy unto the world, peace that enables love, peace over Israel everywhere. Blessed and holy is peace. Let us say, Amen. Thank everyone for coming here today. I thank everyone for sharing such wonderful words. I feel so much that Paul is with us as we move forward today. And if you want to stick around and say hello to people, we can do so. I'll stop recording so that you can do so without necessarily